41st Acre, Brett and Ben here with you, recapping Texas versus Vanderbilt. I think this is week 9 in the college football schedule.
Yes.
Um, Texas wins a narrow one, 27-24. In Nashville, first time playing since 1928, I believe. And the last time they played, Vandy won. So yeah, a win on the road in the SEC is good. And some of the commenters remind us how brutal the SEC schedule is. Um, but Texas did what they were supposed to do. They were better than Vanderbilt, and they won. They didn't play great. What, six points in the second half? Um, so I don't know, Brett. Let's go initial thoughts, and then we can run through some of the stat lines and some of the things we talked about in the pregame.
Yeah. Initial thoughts. I thought Texas would come out hungrier than they did, especially in the trenches. I expected the trenches to be really motivated, mostly on the offensive line side. I was a little disappointed in the execution there and just the focus. I feel like the focus on the offensive line has just been missing all year round. Other initial thoughts. I mean, the way you lose a game like that, where you're, what were we, 18-point favorites or something like that.
18, yeah. I think
So
at one point it got to 19.
So you're a significant favorite playing on the road. How do you lose a game? Well, you have penalties. Texas did that. Check. You have turnovers, bad turnovers. Give the ball to them on your side of the field. Check. We did everything that we needed to do to keep them in that game. We outplayed them in every aspect except for those two things, and those two things are enough to keep a hungry team in. So those are my initial thoughts on it. I mean, we'll get more into the details, but woo, sweating it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought again, Texas could lose this game if they got off to a slow start, which they did. Um, they could lose the game if they turned the ball over, which they did. Um, but yeah, let's start with a positive here. Quinn Ewers. Quinn looked pretty good. The two interceptions were tip balls at the line of scrimmage. Maybe give your opinion on, are those from these sidearm throws? Um, is that a problem? But otherwise, super efficient. I think at one point he was almost, competing with his own record for completions in a row. Um, so Quint, I thought played really well. There was a couple blitzes that came similar to last week where I thought he got rid of the ball quickly. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, it looked like Mississippi State, or I'm sorry, Vanderbilt was doing some pre-snap motion on defense, which I think the commentator said that's new for Vanderbilt. So I think they were doing some things from what they saw in the film that Georgia did, try to confuse Quinn pre-snap. Um, I didn't dissect every play, but there was one particular one where I think he hit Gunnar Helm on a quick slant. Um, so I think Quinn was playing really well. That the RPO game, I think he was reading really well this game. Some of those touchdowns I think were off the RPO game. Did he get to 300 yards? I think that was your prediction.
288.
288. So pretty close. I think, yeah, a lot of the game script for Texas was to run the ball, keep it away from Vanderbilt. Um, so what's your take on Quinn this game?
Uh, Quinn went into that game with a ton of pressure on him, right? Now he's looking over his shoulder because of all the media talking about it, because Sark, questioning his quarterback decision against Georgia, and bringing Arch in mid-game. So Quinn just walked into that game with a ton of pressure, and so it's interesting to see what pressure is going to do. Is it going to turn you into a diamond or not? And it seemed like he was very focused, even right off the bat when he throws an interception, which I'll get into the interceptions in a second. But he just looked crisp and sound and very confident. He was able to step up and make throws in the pocket, which is something we did not see a lot of in Georgia. He made some really nice downfield passes that we're accustomed to seeing Quinn throw. I'm thinking about that Ezekiel wheel route that DeAndre Moore had for the touchdown, and then also I think it was like a deep seam that DeAndre Moore also had. Quinn just put it right over the top of the defense, right into DeAndre Moore's into his hands. He also made a couple other throws that I thought were like just really like outstanding throws, like putting him in the place where only his guy could go get it. I remember an out route to Matthew Golden, maybe, kind of in a goal line.
Touchdown
Uh,
pass to Golden
yeah,
early. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he put it literally where his player could make a play on, and that's to me that is the scariest route to throw because you see it so much. I mean, you saw it in the
Oh,
LSU game last night,
yeah,
where
undercut it.
you throw that, it's an interception. It could be a pick six. So it's a very risky one. Quinn excels in that. So I mean, I thought Quinn was good. He was crisp. He was quick getting the ball out. He seemed to be making good reads. He had a couple of sacks that I guess you could probably say that were his fault, where he was holding the ball too long, or he didn't make the read at the beginning of the play to either hand it off on the RPO or to get it out quicker to a man to a blitzing man's man-to-man coverage. As far as the interceptions go. I don't blame either one on Quinn. In fact, I probably blame. Let's talk about the first one. So the first one was, I think it was just a drop back, and I think they brought four men, and Jake Majors just didn't get his hands on the guy that was coming up the A gap. Uh, just kind of brushed him to the side, and that my guy had just the opportunity just to jump up and tipped that ball straight up in the air. Quinn was throwing to a wide open slant route across the middle that would have gone for 5, 10 yards, whatever it would have been. But you got to say, hey, offensive lineman, if you're not blocking somebody, you need to get your hands on somebody. Jake Majors just kind of brushed him off to the side, and that lucky tip interception by the safety. The second one was similar. They brought two men on the outside. I think they brought the nickel and the corner on that, and the offensive line adjusted for the nickel guy on the inside, and then the outside man should have been picked up by the running back, I'm pretty sure. Which actually running back blocking has been really bad for us this year. But again, a tip and then just an unbelievable Willie Mays type catch by the defensive lineman. He catch the ball the way he did for a second interception. So I don't, those are unlucky. The fact that both tip balls were intercepted is also unlucky. Texas got fortunate in getting one back in a similar fashion, but no, outside of those two plays, I mean, those two interceptions, Quinn was on the money. I thought he looked down the barrel, made the throws he needed to make, had touchdowns when he needed to make touchdowns. I mean, he looked good.
Yeah, I think this is a good first half, good bounce back.
Yeah.
Offense kind of struggled in that second half, but I think that was mostly beating themselves with penalties. Let's talk about that real quick. 10 penalties for 107 yards. I think in the first half, like we scored three, even in the first half, penalties killed drives. We scored on 3 out of 6 drives in the first half. Um, yeah, I think I have in my notes. I think penalties are the reason we had to, or well, there were two turnovers, um, but penalties stopped the other drive. But yeah, 10 for 107. Offensive line um, didn't didn't look like they improved upon last week. I think they just played against inferior opponent. Had they played Georgia again this week, the offensive line um, to me would have got exposed again. So let's offensive line and penalties.
Yeah. All right. This is a big one. Let's spend some time on this. uh, I can't remember what week it was, Ben, but some point in this season, we were talking about Joe Moore Award for this offensive line unit, right? Penalties were certainly something we were concerned about. I mean, if you recall, Cam Williams in the first series against Michigan had maybe two false starts and a holding, which ultimately got one of them called back a touchdown to open the series against Michigan, right?
Yep.
That lack of focus has perpetuated throughout this season. That was Michigan. That was week 2. You got plenty of time to get that fixed. It's perpetuated throughout the season. And this offensive line, there's no offensive line in the country that is as talented as this offensive line. And on the depth side, too. It's truly lack of focus. And I don't think we had any false starts yesterday, which I guess, that's a win. Probably the first game we haven't had a false start. but so many holdings, an unnecessary roughness on your offensive line, just plays that penalties that truly brought us back 10 to 15 yards at a time. They take you from a 1st and 10 where you got picked up 5, 8 yards on a run on a good Jaden Blue or Trey Wisner run, brings you back to 1st and 20. Now you're just trying to cut it in half. So put you in 2nd and 10 if you play it right. And maybe you get a couple yards. Now you're in 3rd and long, right? In most of those cases. 3rd and long is very hard. We've heard Sark talk about it in his press conferences. You can't be in 3rd and long. Well, the first thing you got to do is eliminate penalties, not put yourself back there. Penalties come down to a lack of focus. I mean, Vernon Broughton with the late hit on Pavia at the end of the game, where we would have had a pick six just to seal it, call it a night. We don't have to worry about it. We can go outside and smoke cigars and enjoy the rest of the evening. But it just, instead of being a pick six, it gives them 15 yards into Texas territory. And what do? A few plays later, they go score a touchdown and give themselves an opportunity to for an onside kick to ultimately tie the game and send it to overtime. That's the difference in what penalties do for you and against you.
I
Do they keep
was
you in the game or not?
I was telling my wife we were watching it, and if that yeah, if he does not hit Pavia in the helmet, um, a lot of people probably lost some money on that play because that put it to 17 points.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
so it looks like the line closed, at least according to ESPN, at 16 and a half. If not for that penalty, it would have been 17. And
Wow.
not to say Vanderbilt might not have scored a touchdown that didn't matter to kind of close that, but like that felt like the dagger, and I was like, oh, like Texas covered what the closing spread was. Now if you bet it early at 18 or 19, you still lost money.
Right?
But I
Holy
don't know.
cow. Great
I
call.
thought I thought I don't know. Pavia was running forward. You know, he was kind of running at him, so they're both running at each other, and Pavia he jumps in the air, and I think it was kind of more unfortunate. I don't think it looked like it was like he intended to lunge, and it just Pavia was moving forward. He was moving towards him to tackle him, so you don't want him to scramble. I can't remember what the down distance was. I think it was 4th and long, but like Pavia is a guy that can pick that up if he
I think it was 3rd and 10.
okay.
Yeah, it
So
was.
yeah, I thought that was unfortunate. I don't blame him for that. But yeah, but another instance of a penalty that extended the drive for the other team, or
Yep.
it killed the drive for us.
You had, the frustrating thing is he had done his job, right? Vernon
Yeah,
Broughton had done his job. He had gotten pressure on it. Pavia did not make a good throw. Like he just kind of chunked it up in the air. It
yeah,
was a super easy interception for Kobe Black, and I mean, uh, takes it to the house. It's just that lack of focus at the very end where it's like, do you have to you have to put your shoulder into his head? You don't have to. And I know it's bang bang. It's hard to say, and it's easy to be, a Monday morning quarterback, armchair quarterback, whatever they call it. But uh, it it's just so frustrating. You get to the end, get to the play that can seal it, and just that lack of focus for that half second. That's all it is. You did your job. Pull up. Don't hit it, and the game's over. But nope, we're gonna carry it on and create stress for another, whatever it is, 3 minutes or something like that. So it's tough. Offensive line, Ben, I don't know about this offensive line anymore. They struggled against Georgia in communication. There's way too many unblocked defenders coming off the line, just not even being touched. These
yeah,
corner blitzes that are coming, I don't know who's supposed to pick those up, who's supposed to communicate it, or what's happening there. But those things are just completely unblocked, and they are free hits on Quinn. And there's been no solution from Georgia to Vanderbilt now. We've got a bye week. Is this fixable?
yeah. I think it's fixable. But so far the blueprint to beat Texas is to blitz Quinn. There was a 3rd and 20. They did not blitz. They rushed three, and they dropped all in the zone. He steps up in the pocket and finds Silas Bolden for like
Yeah,
21 yards. And
that was a
like
great throw.
so that's what you're expecting from Quinn. But again, three rushers, 5 against 3 should handle that. Sometimes they don't. if there's a stunt or something. But yeah, the O-line has to get better against these stunts, against these delayed blitzes. You can't allow pressure up the middle. I think there was one time, I'm getting these games all mixed up now, but blitz up the middle. I think the line shifted to the right, and then I think it was blue went blocked to the right, and someone comes up the middle unblocked. You should never have anybody coming up the middle unblocked. It's all Quinn can do is just tuck the ball and duck.
Yes.
So I think it's fixable. Like you said, they have the talent. They're just not playing well. That get back to the technique in the bye week. Um, understand assignments. Maybe let's get up to the line of scrimmage quicker, get the play call in faster, and let's, give time for the offensive line to understand their assignments. Quinn to kind of call things out and shift the, where they're going and what they're looking at, who's the mic, and kind of where we expect pressure from. Like delayed blitzes are always going to happen, and those are hard to pick up. Um, you know, I'd like to see us take advantage of these late shifts by the defense and like, hey, we're expecting you to shift and we're running it where you just shifted away from, based on film potentially. So kind of look at yourself in the mirror. What do teams do to beat you? And now what are these teams on the upcoming schedule going to try to mirror to beat you? And are you prepared for that? It didn't look like they were prepared for it this game. Now, like I said, Quinn was better, but Vanderbilt in the second half, you know, pretty much besides penalties, Vanderbilt defense played pretty well in the second half. Um,
If your starting
yeah,
quarterback throws for 73% completion, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, for almost 300 yards, you expect your team to win, score more than 27 points.
yeah. I mean, listen, if not for penalties, I think Texas wins this game by 4 touchdowns and easily covers the spread.
I think,
Um,
I think I predicted the game 45-13 or something like
right.
that.
Yeah.
We left 45 points out there. I mean,
Oh,
it,
I mean, I know it's stupid, but like you just double the first half score and you got, 42 to 20, which okay, so let's go back to the first quarter, or let's go back to Pavia. Um, I thought besides the first drive, Texas and there was just horrible angles on that 18-yard scramble for a touchdown.
oh,
Credit to Pavia, the
there.
team the team was not ready for his speed. But after that play, that I know he got hurt later in the game, and that I think that had an impact on his ability to run. Looked like
Yeah.
he put a knee brace on. So he still rushed for like 70 yards or something. No,
Mm,
67. Okay, but the first play, Vandy had all the momentum. They
yep.
started the ball. They started the ball on the 30-yard line. I thought, here we go again. We're going to give the average starting field position to our opponent on
Yep.
the 30-yard line for the second game in a row. Luckily, that changed. Um, but other than that first drive, Texas did a really good job containing Pavia. I thought, Diego Pavia still looked pretty good quarterback. Texas was tackling well.
Tackling
Um,
well. Yeah. I
yeah,
thought so too.
I don't think we missed a beat with some of those DBs being out. Derek Williams, Andrew McCubba. I think the guys that came in played pretty well. Yeah, so it was a Gilbo that took a bad angle on that first run, but they adjusted. Um,
Yeah, they did.
so
Anthony Hill had a great game.
Anthony Hill, like yeah, led the team in tackles. He was all
Yeah.
over the place.
I'll tell you this. I said, did you watch my halftime instant reaction?
Yeah,
So in the halftime instant reaction, we're up 21-10, I think at half, right? 21-7, 21-10. And I said, this Vanderbilt team cannot score 30 points. It's impossible. They're too slow. They take too long to score. They're set up to win a game in the 20s. I said, all you have to do if you're Texas is get to the 30s. You're 9 points away. A
yeah,
touchdown and a field goal ends the game. And what do we do in the second half? 6 points, 2 field goals. And you make it competitive. Make it competitive. You put it within the threshold that they can succeed in. It's just like, oh man, cool.
yeah. I think not to discredit Vanderbilt. They're obviously a good team and they play close games every week. But Texas, clearly had better talent. If
Yeah,
you're if you don't see that, I don't know what you're watching. But Texas players are better. The penalties just kept killing them. They should have won this game by a lot.
yeah.
Um, Surprisingly, Texas won the time of possession battle, which I did not see coming, even with a victory. Um, so that was a big win. That was something we talked about in the pregame as something to look for. But, Vanderbilt, and they were talking about it on the announcers were talking about during the game. That's their style is, control the ball, limit turnovers. They even showed a little preview of what the Vanderbilt head coach was telling his team. Limit Texas to 28 points or less. And like that's the formula to beating Texas is you win the turnover battle, you limit them to 28 points. Um, Maybe stop the run game was the third one, but like they did almost all of those things. They started off winning the turnover battle. Um, yeah, I think it's most of these games with Texas. I think first to 30 wins. Vanderbilt, yeah, get the onside kick, they get 30 points, they win. So, um, yeah,
Yeah.
first to 30, I think is going to be key in these games. So, one more thing that I kind of noted, Texas did a lot better on third down. 9 for 15 on third downs.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, Again, we can look back on how many of those missed opportunities were because of penalties. Probably all of them. I would bet. So much better on third down. I think they started the game 4 for 4. I think maybe 5 for 7 in the first half. So that was a big improvement. And like I mentioned, they were getting to third and short. Like the first drive, you know, I can't remember the exact play calls, but like I think our first third down was 3rd and 2. Like
Yeah.
that's so much better than 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8, which that's where we lived last week. So I thought Sark did a great job getting us to manageable third downs. Vanderbilt, um, they were not very good on third down. They were 3 for 12, but they had 17 first downs. So a lot of their first downs came on first or second down plays. Actually, fourth down as well. They had a couple of fourth down conversions that also kind of killed us. Texas defense, I thought, played really well. Um, you know, couple of the fourth down touchdown. It's hard to stop teams on 4 plays, no matter who you are. Especially, team you can average 3 yards a play and you know go for it on every fourth down, and you're going to get it. But yeah,
Well,
turnover battle, third down conversions, time possession. We won all those things.
here's my final thoughts on this. I said this after the Georgia one, but adjustments, like midseason adjustments, are as important as halftime adjustments. And I hope Sark is watching the film and he's seeing how these defenses are being successful, bringing unblocked defenders on a blitz to Quinn, typically from the secondary. Hope we figure that out. I hope we figure out all these penalties and just undisciplined type play mostly from our offensive line, but a couple bad penalties on the defense as well that kept them on drives. Um, this bye week, I don't think could come at a more perfect time. You've got a gauntlet to finish the season, right? At Arkansas, at A&M, highly emotional games. You've got Florida at home and Kentucky at home, which both those teams are competitive and most of the games they played. Kentucky beat Ole Miss this year, right? So these teams have the talent to keep you in, and they certainly have the defenses to expose these weaknesses, which every single one of these opponents is watching the tape against Georgia, is watching the tape against Vanderbilt, and watching how to disrupt Sark and Quinn's offense. So these, you know, final third part of the season, it's time to make major adjustments and have play calls dialed up for that, have the offensive line ready for that. This bye week could not come at a better time. We got to get Isaiah Bond, Andrew Makuba healthy again. I've got to take a week off just to reduce my overall stress levels. I'm actually really looking forward to this coming weekend without having to sit there and stress about Texas football game. Yeah, I'm nervous, excited for it. I think we've got a lot of adjustments before we get to some of these opponents if we're going to go 4-0, which we kind of need to get to the SEC championship at this point in time. It's neck and neck with everybody.
Yeah. Um, don't look ahead. I think, you know, Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky are capable of beating anyone. They'd all love to beat Texas and say welcome to the SEC.
Yep.
Just every commentator on our comment section or anywhere on Facebook, Instagram, wherever they're talking about Texas, that's the general sentiment I get is the welcome to the SEC, which um yeah, SEC play is tough. The team, every athlete's bigger, tougher, faster. But I disagree with the fact that Texas isn't, and I know you do as well. I think
Yep.
Texas is big, fast, and strong. It is really hard to go undefeated in any conference, but the SEC is definitely the one where it's the hardest to. So, you know,
Nick Saban did it twice,
Nick Saban and Kirby Smart are like those guys are legendary.
but Nick
LS,
Saban in all his time did it
yeah,
twice.
LSU has good runs like every 5 years, but it's like to be consistent at the top of the SEC is really tough. You know,
Hmm.
Texas couldn't really do it in the Big 12, so I don't know if they're going to consistently be at the top in the SEC. We're getting ahead of ourselves. So Sark's got a lot to prove to be in the conversation with Kirby Smart and Nick Saban. But yeah, like you said, this is the year Texas has, bad loss to Georgia, didn't play well at all, any phase of the game, and you're still within two possessions. Georgia doesn't look great to me still. Um, you know, just kind of a funny year. There's a lot more parity this year, so you can't take any of these teams on the schedule lightly. So yeah, take the bye week, get rested, fix the things that have gone wrong these last couple weeks,
Hmm.
and just come out, with the same edge that you came out against Michigan, against Oklahoma, that mentality. Um, so I think Texas has the talent to do it. I'm hopeful and positive that Sark is gonna get this team the right message in the bye week. Come out, they'll be favorites in every game, maybe except against A&M in that last game. So just take care of business, do your job, trust your teammates. When bad things happens, like they did in the first quarter against Vanderbilt, you're down 7-0. You respond with a touchdown. Drive the ball methodically down the field, score, play your game. So anyway,
Hey, at the end of the day, we're still whatever we are, 6-1, right?
yeah, 6-1.
6-1. We're off to a great start. A win's a win. You sometimes you got to win these close ones and just move on to the next one. So there is that to take away. Let's get healthy and get back on track and go into the last quarter of the season, the last third of the season, and play our asses off.
Let's go. Unfiltered, a little biased, 100% truthful. Good time for a bye week. All
All
right.
right,
See you in 2
welcome,
weeks.
nation.